Welcome to Post Status Happiness Hour. I am here on October 30th. It's almost Halloween with Topher DeRosa of HeroPress. Topher, how are you?
I'm doing all right. I
Looks like you're
I recently moved to a farm next to a
okay.
forest, and I'm sitting here with the door standing open and beautiful, cool autumn air coming in.
Looks like you're camping. It looks like camp beds
Wow,
behind you.
yeah, yeah, they're pretty cool log beds. Somebody made them and gave them to us.
That's very cool. And was it 2 weeks ago we tried to do this, but you didn't have internet then. But you've got a
Right?
great internet now. So here we
Yeah.
are.
Yep. Starlink came the other day,
Nice.
and it only took a few minutes to set up, and I'm really happy with it so far.
Fantastic. So good. So tell us, well, let me tell us first. The first time I ever met you was whatever WordCamp US. Was it the first one or the second one
That
that you
was the
spoke
very
at?
first one.
Very first one, which was what, 2014, 15? I
Mm,
lost track.
20
I
a
know.
long time ago.
20 a long time ago. Almost 10 years, if not 10 years ago. Um, and you had done a talk on HeroPress.
Hmm.
And I sat in that room and I thought, this is really cool. I've never heard of that before. And so I talked to you afterwards. I was thinking about starting a similar website, not WordPress related, but on a WordPress website,
Hmm.
and asked you some questions. And I think it was several years between then and us actually knowing each other as friends.
Right.
But I had never forgotten about that. And then one day when I was working at Give WP, you said, "Hey, I would love for you to write your story for HeroPress." And I was like, it was the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Yes, I remember you from that talk because I remember standing on stage and you asked a great question and I thought I need to find that person, talk to them about doing an essay. And then
It was
I don't think I put it together like when you came up after. I don't think I put it together that you were the one that had asked the question. And
mm,
so it
yeah,
moved on for a couple of years.
and here we are. I love it.
Here we are.
So tell us a little bit. I know that you have given us the story of HeroPress in a bunch of different places, but
Sure.
for posterity, give us the story of HeroPress here today.
All right. In 2014, right before Thanksgiving,
Mm-hmm.
I woke up to an email that said, "You're not working for XWP anymore. You're working. I want you to do something great for WordPress." And that was it. So,
End of story. That was really boring. Goodbye, everybody.
yeah,
Have a good night.
well, yeah. So I wrote back and I said, "What is it?" And he said,
Yeah,
"That's your journey to discover," which was both a blessing and a curse at the same time. And
sure.
I had the freedom to do whatever I wanted, and I had all the rope I needed to hang myself.
I always say it's harder
So,
to spend a gift certificate than your own money. And
oh
that sounds
yeah,
like exactly what you were handed, like this giant gift certificate, and you're like, but what do I do with it, right?
yep, yep, exactly. So we came up with something like TED,
Mm-hmm.
and we were going to travel the world and have people uh, talk to their peers.
Mm-hmm.
I had been asked by an Indian guy some advice, and I didn't have any good advice, and so I helped him find some good advice from other Indians. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought, boy, I'd really like to help people all over the world,
Sure.
but I didn't want to be the great white savior coming in from America. I'm an older white dude. Um, it's kind of a stereotype.
A little bit.
Uh, so I thought, well, maybe I'll just riff on what we did before, and I will get people already there who've already succeeded to talk about what they think is important rather than what I think is important.
Mm-hmm.
That has always been key. I tell people when they're doing their essay, you write what you think is important because I don't know. I mean, I have my ideas, but what do I know? Um, Surprisingly, I've consistently had people with physical limitations not write about them.
Mm-hmm.
It's not what's important. It's not what's going on in their life. It's not what they need to tell other people. And I'm
Right.
like, okay, that's yours. Um, so we were gonna do TED, and we did a Kickstarter, for 60,000 Australian dollars because the company was Australian. It was
Okay.
not my company. It was a registered Australian business. And the goal was not necessary. Like, we needed the money. The money was good, but what we really wanted was 60,000 $1 donations. We
Okay.
wanted 60,000 people to say, "I like this idea well enough to give you $1."
Mm-hmm.
And that fell wildly short. We had 3 companies give $5,000 each, and then 20 or 30 people give $20 or $30 each.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was it. The time ran out. Something about Kickstarter, you can, if it fails, you can never try again. If you
Oh,
cancel it, you can try again. And so
interesting.
most people, if it looks like it's not going to work, they cancel it and then maybe try and pivot or something. So we
Mm-hmm.
canceled ours a few days before the end, and that was supposed to be the end. Dave, the guy who had commissioned me originally, he and I had a previous agreement that if this didn't work out, then we walk our separate ways. And I didn't
Okay.
have a job anymore, and we had some long, hard talks in our house about what to do next and what we should have done different, and all of that. People said, this was such a great idea, you can't let it go. And I thought, wow, that's cool, but I can't travel the world with a video team. I'm
Right.
unemployed. So I thought about different ways I could do it, and I ended up with the idea of doing it in text. And then we're not doing 6 months of video editing.
Mm-hmm.
We're not traveling. We're not. I mean, the costs are infinitely less. The person writes it themselves, and the bandwidth is so much lower. The people we were targeting were, we said at the time, people on the fringes of WordPress,
Okay.
non-Western. Over time, I realized that um, everybody's on a fringe of something, and so the target shifted a little. But the point at the time was we wanted people who probably didn't have great bandwidth,
Okay.
and text is much better on 3G than a 4K video.
Sure.
You know, um, so that brought that way down. I made it way more accessible. So I
Mm-hmm.
went to Andrei Savchenko, Rarshed in the WordPress community,
Mm-hmm.
and he had been on the list to do a video. And I said, "Would you do it in text instead?" And he said, "Sure." And it was wildly popular.
Nice.
Maybe the most popular post ever. And I was really excited. I thought, "Wow, this is really great. I should get another one for next week." I hadn't thought that far ahead. Um, and so uh, I got another one really quick. And then I thought, oh no, I need another one. It was like 3 months before I thought I should get ahead of this. I should.
Yeah, we tend to plan for failure, and when we meet with success, we're like, oh, well, what now?
Yes, exactly. And so we just started doing them. And I wrote to Dave and asked him, "Is this okay?" Because he owned the business, he owned the domain name, he owned everything, and he didn't write back. Um, I assumed he'd moved on to the next big thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just kept doing it. And after about 6 months, he wrote back and said, "I like what you're doing. Keep it up."
Nice.
And so we did. And he owned it for probably 5 or 6 years before we finally said, "Hey, we should probably transfer this." um, but boy, in 2015, the organizers from WordCamp Pune
Mm-hmm.
emailed me and said, "Hey, would you like to come speak?" This is like 2 months before WordCamp.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, oh, that'd be cool. Still unemployed. um, but I did a GoFundMe and I got enough money to go to WordCamp Pune in 24 hours.
Wow.
which
That's awesome.
is very impressive to me at the time. So I went, and
Mhm.
I didn't want to vacation on other people's money, so I was there for about 48 hours,
Mhm.
which is a whirlwind. I mean, the flight was 16,
I was gonna
you know, so
say.
it was pretty incredible. Um,
You got home and you had no idea what time of day it was.
no, not really. It really didn't matter. I slept when I needed to sleep, and I got up and I did stuff when that happened.
Hmm.
Um, I was in my hotel for probably 10 hours the whole time. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
so
crazy.
ever since then, I mean, HeroPress has brought me so many blessings. I can't even explain it. The people I've met,
Hmm.
the places I've gone, um, the jobs I've gotten
Hmm.
because people knew who I was. Um, it's just it's crazy.
So let's talk numbers a little bit. So how many? I hope you have the stats, but if you can't, if you don't, look them up quick. How
I'm
many
typing fast.
essays? How many essays are there at this point?
Um, Let me look here. So just the other day, I did a post called "10 Years
Okay.
of HeroPress," and it has a bunch of stats,
Hmm.
but also has a cool thing where I made a grid of the um icon not icons featured images for each contributor, so it's their
Hmm.
faces,
I saw that.
and it's not just one giant image. It's actually a flex grid, and you can hover over them and see the name and click them and stuff like that,
Nice.
um which is pretty cool. So there's 278 essays right now in
Impressive.
29 languages from 66 countries.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and I didn't start asking for other languages till maybe more than halfway through. And so there are a bunch from the early days that are just English that could be in other languages
Hmm.
if I wanted to go back and do that. Um, I have 136 women and 134 men
Nice.
and three non-binary folks.
Hmm.
Um, the longest it ever took someone to get me an essay was 9 years, and
They
the
had
shortest,
to think about what to write.
yeah,
It was changing every day.
yep, and the shortest was 2 hours.
Oh my goodness, that's pretty quick.
Yep.
What's the average
Um,
time?
well, it really varies. It used for many years, people would say, I need a couple of weeks, and that was it.
Hmm.
Um, but these days, it's very, very common for people to say, "I'm busy right now. I will get back to you in 3 or 4 months,"
Okay,
and then often they forget, and so it's a month after that.
gotcha.
So
Do you have to
it's
do it? Do you
actually
do reminders or do you just wait for people to come?
I usually wait. It's extremely common for me to see someone interesting, look them up on Slack or Twitter or something, and see a conversation from last year about it.
Yeah.
And then I say, "Hey, what do you think?" And they're like, "Oh, I forgot. I'm so sorry." Every WordCamp I go to, some stranger will walk up to me and say, "I promised you an essay 2 years ago, and I'm so sorry." I'm like, "I don't remember, so it's okay."
Who are you again?
Yep.
I think, when I think back on writing mine, it's a lot like writing your own bio, right? Like it's really hard to write your own bio because when you write about yourself, you feel like you're bragging. You feel
Yeah.
like you're just, you're putting yourself as much bigger than you actually are when the truth is you're just writing your story. So I
Yeah.
think sometimes people might have to get over that hurdle of being okay with writing about their own journey, which isn't always easy to do.
Yeah. And a lot of times, in fact, most people say no one's interested in my story.
Right.
And a lot of times I have to show people that their own story is cool.
Yeah.
And often it's not necessarily their own story I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to inspire people like them to do things
Mm-hmm.
like they did. So I say, have you ever contributed to WordPress? Well, yeah. Well, what was that like?
Mm-hmm.
And 20 minutes later, we have a story.
There
You
you go.
know, have you ever written a plugin? Ever released it? Yeah. What was that like?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever been to WordCamp for the first time? What was that like?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Has
all
anybody
those
ever done more than
stuff.
one, or is it like a one-time deal?
I have 3 or 4 sequels,
Yeah.
and I'm always open to them. I know some people that have said recently that they want to do a sequel. Um, People are pretty different. Like most people are pretty different now than they were 8 years ago.
Sure.
Um, Different jobs, different experiences. Um, there's a luster to the WordPress community when you're new,
Mm-hmm.
and it always changes. Some people learn to hate the community. Some people learn to love it a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's always different.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
That's pretty cool. And you've always been sponsored by donations since that time, is that true?
Oh, wow, no. Well, so I haven't had money other than donations since then. I We did our first fundraiser, hmm, 2 years ago,
Okay.
and at the time I thought everybody loves HeroPress. Every person in the whole world loves HeroPress. How can it not turn out wonderfully? And we got at the time about $1,500 in one-time
Mm-hmm.
donations. Well, I had been thinking at the time, I'm going to get enough to make this my full-time job. You know, I'm going to get $80,000. So we got 1,500 in one time, and we got about 300 a month recurring,
Okay.
and that's been 2 years. So I mean, it's not insignificant. It's been helping to pay the bills. Um,
Yeah.
but it
I
was
think
not
I'm one of
salary.
them.
Yes, you are. Yeah. Not only that, but in testing for this most recent one, you gave me some euro. So thank you for the euro.
You're welcome. You can use that at WordCamp Europe next year.
That's right. Um, so on the one hand, I mean, it was cool that people gave money, that people wanted to be behind it, but it wasn't $60,001 donations.
Yeah.
You know, I would still rather see that any old day of the week. So we recently did another one. It's the 10-year anniversary. Um, uh, we've had some hard times recently. Um, Illnesses, medical bills. Our car died. Just a whole bunch of stuff all happened at once, and so I put up a donation form, and it's different this time. Not necessarily the way I wanted. We're getting even fewer individual donations,
Hmm.
by far. I mean, I think maybe 20 or 30 so far.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Very like thoughtful gifts. Like people are writing about it when they give, and that's really really cool.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been asking companies to do a $1,000 one time donation.
Mm-hmm. How's
Um,
that going?
Much better than expected.
Good.
Um, Last year I asked maybe 4 or 5 companies, and they all did it. So this year,
Mm-hmm.
actually, several of them have done it again. So it's not necessarily one time, but um, well, let me look here. They're all listed on the donate page at heropress.com/donate.
There you go.
Um, we're at 12% right now. So Nexus and Liquid Web each gave 1,000. RT Camp gave 1,000. Human Made gave 1,000. Um, Corey Ashton, the most beautiful person in the world,
She's
um,
amazing.
gave it not from her company, but out of her own wallet, $1,000.
Nice.
So that's 4 or 5 right now,
Yeah.
and I think like several others I haven't been able to get a hold of yet this month. but I suspect there will be some more. So that's cool. I mean, it's been really helpful. We've gotten almost $6,000, or $70 short of $6,000 right now, in 1 month, and that has been huge this month. So like a super blessing.
Incredibly helpful, I'm sure.
Yeah. We have a goal up there of $50,000, which was completely arbitrary. Last time I didn't have a goal at all, and people said, "Well, you might have gotten more if you had a target for people to aim at." So I just picked one this time, and my wife's like, 50,000? Why on earth? What makes you think we're gonna get that? I said, I don't know. What if I pick 10?
Wouldn't it be nice?
Yeah, maybe what if I pick 10 and people were like, "Oh, I would have given a lot more if you'd asked for more."
Right.
So, I'm being optimistic.
Sure.
We'll
Optimism is
see.
good.
Yeah. But the whole process of asking for money is difficult, and I've learned a lot about how it's done, about how I feel about it, how other people feel about it. Yeah, it's just I've learned a lot.
It's pretty cool. I don't want to say do you have favorite stories, but what are some of the ones that just surprised you? Like you read it and you were like, "Holy cow, I had no idea," or "This is such an interesting journey," or something that was just so out of the ordinary that you just think about it often.
Tanya Morks was really interesting. She's one of the
That was
very few
recent
people.
too.
Nope, that was years ago.
Oh, that's right. It was just republished. That's right.
Yeah.
You put it out again. Yeah.
I put it out again. On weeks when I don't have one, I often will recycle one.
Reach into the archive. That's what we call it.
Yes. She's one of the few people that approached me and said, "Hey, I want to be on HeroPress." The vast majority of them are people I tracked down.
Sure.
And her story is that she died and was dead for a long time, not a long time. Okay, so hours.
3 weeks.
Hours, yeah. And was resuscitated, and her illness was gone. She had been going downhill for several years, and when she woke up, she was all better. And she got into WordPress while recovering from that. I mean, for all her illness was gone, her body was a mess from years of illness. So she got into WordPress then, and that was cool. There's another one. Let me make sure I get names and dates right here.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So Collins Agbonhama from Benin City in Nigeria.
Okay.
He started his business as a web developer, building websites on a Nokia 3120 cell phone.
Wow.
He's got a picture of it right on his essay here. I don't remember what they used to call that. What do you call that when you're typing on a number pad on a phone?
Oh,
do you remember what
on
that
the
was?
phone, wasn't it like T something, T12 or T2?
Yeah.
T2.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what he used to build websites.
Amazing.
And there used to be a technology called WAP.
Okay.
And you would build websites, and the information was organized with the metaphor of a deck of cards.
Okay.
And so you would build cards of information, and they were built for webs or for cell phones, not non-internet cell phones.
I was gonna say this is pre-smartphone, wouldn't it be?
Yeah. And there's a screenshot here of one of his websites. It's a black background with neon green and red and blue text. And
you can share your screen if you'd like. Wait, let's take a look at it.
Yeah. But I was just blown away that he was able to do this on a Nokia phone.
Amazing. Yeah, for sure.
Another good one. Again, let me resurrect my information and get it right. Thelma from Zimbabwe.
Mm-hmm.
You know her?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I have a WP Coffee Talk recorded that I'm still going to put out that she and I did. Not too
Beautiful.
recent, not too far, not
Yeah.
too long ago,
So
is what I'm trying to say.
Zimbabwe is one of the poorest countries in the world. And when I met her, she was building websites for local businesses for, fair local money, but compared to what we would make,
Mm-hmm.
not much.
Right.
And because she wrote an essay, she was seen and asked to be on the all women release team for whatever version that was at the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And because of that, was able to get a job at Automatic, which pays way better than her neighbors are making.
Right.
And so she's supporting her family and getting stuff done.
Yeah,
And
she's
then
a very nice person.
one more I want to tell you about.
Yeah.
Um, oh, hang on, I'm clicking my map. Where is there? It is Malawi. Robert Chiluka is from
Mm-hmm.
Malawi. Malawi is officially the world's poorest country, and it's so poor that you can only get a bank account if you have like $1 million US, literally a million.
Oh
And
my
so
goodness.
it's only the super oligarchs who own all the money in the country who have bank
Wow.
accounts at all. And that means you can't get a PayPal account, you can't get
Right.
any of the other online accounts.
Mm-hmm.
So it is impossible for WordPressers in Malawi to buy plugins or themes
Or hosting.
or hosting or any of it.
Yeah.
They're really, really stuck. And
Yeah.
so I have a long time dream that has not never happened yet. I want to build a a licensed gift basket with license keys to
Mm.
all the big plugins and some free hosting, and just give it away to people like him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because there are other countries that are not that poor. Obviously, it's the poorest, but there are lots of countries where people are struggling to come
Yeah.
up with $30 a month for hosting,
Mm-hmm.
um, and stuff like that. So that's a someday project, but we'll see. But
Mm-hmm.
those are some of my favorites.
That's very cool. I love that there's like so many different countries, so many different people, so many different backgrounds and socioeconomic levels and all of that that makes post status. Here I am in my own little world here. That makes HeroPress everything that it is. I think that's really
Yeah,
neat.
it's pretty fun when I introduce someone and they go to the map and they see
Mm-hmm.
their own country and
I
they're
bet.
just so delighted,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And I know that most people don't think that they can just be like, I'm going to do a HeroPress story, but you literally invite them right on the website. Just go to heropress.com/contribute.
Oh
And
yeah.
anybody can tell their story on HeroPress. It doesn't have to be, it's not invitation only. It's not, something that's impossible to attain. It's like, you want stories. You want people to
Yeah.
tell their stories.
Yep,
And
very
so
much so.
anybody can do it. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
And I don't think I knew that back in the day. So when you asked me, I was like, oh, wow, this is really cool. Um, but yeah, I've actually pushed some people towards you. I'm like, hey, we'd love your story. I
Yeah.
talked to Topher and he said I can invite anybody I want,
Yep.
which is very cool.
Yeah. And it's been great.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I love when I see people's news, when you put a new post out and people have, I love reading about them and seeing what they're doing and what their stories, how they've arrived where they are today. It's just, yeah, it's really cool stuff. Very, very,
Yeah.
very interesting. And it's just another part of those, I call us like gap filling projects, right? Like HeroPress is not part of WordPress.org. It isn't an official anything to do with WordPress, just like my stuff isn't either. But we contribute to the community and we help build the community with these
Yep.
projects that just tell stories. And like WP Coffee Talk does. I talk to people all over the world the same way that you're getting their essays from all over the world. And it's just a way that it makes the world feel a little bit smaller, a little bit closer knit. And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The stories are important. I used to think for years, I thought that the world rushed to read every episode or every essay as it was published. And I've never gotten huge hits. My standard for success is 100-page views by noon on release day. And it's very common on a Sunday. I'll get 2 or 3 visitors to the site in the entire day from the entire world. And I was a little depressed about that for a while, but I was talking to Morten Rand Hendrickson one time, and he's a huge fan. He loves it. He tells people about it all the time. And I said, "Do you read every Wednesday?" He said, No, not even close. I don't have time for that."
Right.
I was like, "Oh man, if somebody who loves it doesn't read it, who's reading this thing? Why do I bother?" And then he said, "But I do read whenever I get down about the WordPress community, about what we're doing, and about why does any of this matter? I go and I read 5 or 6 essays at once, and it fixes everything."
Yeah.
And then in that same year, so several years ago, I was at WordCamp Ann Arbor, and Josepha came to me and said, "I have to tell you something." She said, "Often I am the mother of WordPress. Employees will come to me and say, I work support and people are mean. Life sucks. And I hate this. And I'm just so depressed I can't even stand it. And I hate this." And she doesn't even have to say that much. She just listens.
Yeah.
And at the end, they often say, "I'm just going to go read HeroPress now, and then things will be all better."
Yeah. I like that.
And it made me realize that the value of HeroPress is less as a publication and more of an encyclopedia, uh, a tome, a record of our history, and a library. And people go there looking for specific inspirations, not necessarily the latest one. And to be fair, I mean, I asked people to write to their peers. So someone wrote to the Zimbabwean WordPress community, and they're not going to blow out my stats,
Right.
I'm not going to get 100,000 visitors from Zimbabwe because of that. And so it's much more about the small scale, the value, making little ripples, rather than throwing a boulder in the lake. I'm throwing in a lot of pebbles.
Yeah.
And the ripples just go on and on and on.
And the level rises little by little.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had a lot of people come to me over the years and say, "Listen, I read an essay 10 years ago, 5, 6, whatever years ago. And it really changed things for me." Do you know Ugyen from Bhutan?
I don't believe so.
I'm trying to get an essay from every country in the world. That's one of my diversity markers. And so I saw somebody from Bhutan. I'm like, "Oh, there we go." And so I wrote to him, and he's a very nice man. And he just regular WordPresser, and he did an essay, and that was cool. And then I met him at WordCamp Asia in Thailand, and he was an organizer. And he said, "If it were not for you, I would never have volunteered for anything like this. I would not be here. I would not be part of the community. I wouldn't be involved with any of this." And see, now you're gonna make me cry. And it was moving for me
Yeah.
to know that happened. And he said it was me. It was something I did. But all I did is send him an email and say, "Hey, we do an essay,"
Yeah.
and I posted it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know what credit I want to take for that.
Right.
Um,
The keeper
but
of the stories. You're the keeper of
it's
the tales.
special.
You're the archivist.
Yeah.
The librarian.
Yeah.
Joran says, "Hey, Belgium is still not on your country list, Topher."
Well, you can tell him that I have asked him to do an essay before,
He's
and I'm still
listening.
waiting.
You're telling him right now.
That's right. I think we talked about it at breakfast in Berlin.
There you go. So I did ask people if they have questions for us. This is a question that's not necessarily related to HeroPress, and I don't know if it's all going to show up on the screen. Oh yeah, it does.
Yeah.
We have to sit a little higher though, so that we can be seen. But so the title of this is the Happiness Hour. So here's his question: How do the two of us feel about or get excited about going to another WordPress community event? Next week he's on his way to Rome, but actually not all that excited.
Yeah. So I've been thinking about this a lot for the last couple of weeks. There's a song, "Should I Stay or Should I Go Now?"
Yeah,
from the Ramones.
I remember. Yeah.
And so I did a blog post about this too. Just the other day, when this whole thing started, Dave sent me a photo of a small Indian child being bathed in an alley. And he said, "I don't care what you do, but whatever it is, somehow I wanted to help this kid." And it's a stock photo. We don't know who that kid is. But he looks to be 3 to 5 years old. And I realized just the other day that it's been 10 years. It's entirely possible that kid is getting into WordPress right now as a 15-year-old, and we could be directly helping him. And that kid doesn't know anything about hosting companies, about licenses, about trademarks. He doesn't care. He's fooling around on the computer and he's building cool stuff.
Yeah.
And maybe someday soon, maybe when he's 16, he'll be supporting his family, building websites with WordPress. And those are the people I care about. Those are the people I still get excited about.
Yep.
I don't know that I'll ever be able to let go and walk away, regardless of who does what in the community, because there's so many more people like that kid.
Yeah.
That I just want to, I want to go to every WordCamp in the world and stick my hand out and say, "Hey, I'm Topher. Tell me your story.
Yeah.
How can I help you?" Once upon a time, when I thought I might get significant money for HeroPress, one of my goals was to go to small camps around the world. Still be a lot of travel, but not necessarily the big ones, because the people who need it the most can't afford to go there. I wanted to go to Nepal and work my way south to Sri Lanka, visiting all the camps I could.
Yeah.
I wanted to go to Africa and just bop around the continent, visiting the camps that I could find. I thought I was going to WordCamp Romania in 2 weeks, but that fell through for a lot of different reasons. Just to meet people, the people who don't care about trademarks.
Right.
I mean, it's just, yeah.
Yeah. No, I completely...
the question was how do I get excited? I'm excited about those people. I'm excited about the people who just want to go build cool stuff.
Yeah.
And help people around them and make the world a better place. And we can still do that.
I was looking for the person's name, and I apologize. I hope he's not listening, because I'm not going to recall his name right off the bat. But I met somebody at WordCamp Asia 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then this year at WordCamp Asia, he came up to me with his cell phone on FaceTime and had his 9-year-old daughter who wanted to meet me because he talked about the woman who was inspirational. And so his daughter, every once in a while, he still sends me a message and says his daughter says hello because somehow I inspired his 9-year-old to want to do things like I do. And like, oh my gosh, I was never so humbled as that particular moment. And for me, that's what our WordPress community is about. So I, just like everybody else, I get frustrated, I get sad, I get worried, I get everything, with what's going on in WordPress sometimes. But it's the people more than it is any particular way that we're organizing things that makes me excited about WordPress. And so it doesn't matter what's going on. I still want to go and I still want to talk to people and I still want to be part of that community. And so I would be excited to go next week or 2 weeks if I was going to Rome. If anybody wants to send me, give me my PayPal link. But seriously, that would be something that would be very exciting to do. And so I hope you do get excited, Joran. I want you to be excited about going to those things and not feel discouraged because the people are still people and we all still love each other. So at least most of us, I think. So I don't know.
There's maybe grumpy people.
Maybe I'm Pollyanna, but
yeah.
But yeah, I do get excited about it. So he does say that, he said that that's true, but he got excited that way back in 2016 at his first camp too. So, and appreciates your views, which is nice. Yeah.
Thank you.
And you need to do your HeroPress story. I'm talking to you right now. You're the one. So I'm talking to you, Joran. You need to write your HeroPress story. Do it. Get on there, buddy. I'm going to start messaging you every week. Have you written it yet? I'll be the thorn in your side. But for real, I won't do that. But I do love having those come out, and I don't like Morton. I don't read them every week because life is crazy busy, and I'm writing more than I'm reading lately. But yeah, when you want to, when you need that pick me up to read somebody else's story, or let's say even if you're thinking about hiring somebody and you want to learn more about somebody, if there are essays out there, you get a real insight into who they are. Anybody who writes their story on HeroPress really is somebody who cares, and just by being on there, it feels like they've been vetted already a little bit. So
yeah.
So
as long as we're talking about stuff,
yes.
I want to talk about languages.
Okay.
Very early on, I looked at doing multilingual, and Weglot very kindly offered me their highest plan for free.
They're pretty awesome, yeah.
But not with paid translators because Weglot doesn't own them. And so I started looking at it, and I realized that the languages it's best at are Western, and we kind of need them the least.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at India with 8,500 languages, and Weglot uses an AI service.
Sure.
And they're pretty terrible at Hindi, at Urdu, Gujarati. They're not good at all. And so, I asked around in India and I said, how important is it that we have other languages? They said, don't worry about it. Everybody speaks English.
Mm-hmm.
But I learned at WordCamp Pune from a Sri Lankan speaker that something like 60 or 70% of Indians don't speak English, which is interesting. But I quickly realized I couldn't afford it. I couldn't afford to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But then I started asking people to translate their own, which is why we have multilingual today. And it's not true multilingual. In fact, Yost was telling me that the way I'm doing it is probably hurting me from a Google standpoint, having two different languages on one page. Google gets confused. But I don't care.
Yeah.
Um,
So that's less important than the fact that people can read it.
it is. And the most valuable thing I learned is that still most of my readers speak English, but being able to read it in their own language feels special.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody
I
cared
can believe
enough
that.
to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then something else really valuable I learned is that if English is your second language, no matter how good you are at it, you're going to be more expressive in your own first language.
Makes sense to me.
And so um, people who speak both will choose to read it in their own first. They could read it in English just fine, but they'd rather
Mm-hmm.
read it in their own language.
Yeah.
And so that's something that costs me nothing, essentially, that I can give to people to make them feel wanted, special, important,
Mm-hmm.
um, and in many ways convey the story better
Yeah.
to the people who are trying to read it. It's the peers of the writer,
Yep.
you know, and
Absolutely.
and it's more important that the peers of the writer understand it most clearly
Mm-hmm.
than me.
Right. Absolutely. Well, I'm going to say here, I'm going to put up a couple banners. So for more information, of course, HeroPress.com is the main thing. If you would like to donate, it's been 10 years of HeroPress, and they're doing a fundraiser right now. So just go to HeroPress.com/donate. And as I've been saying, if you would like to contribute your own story, it's HeroPress.com/contribute. All of those site visits would be welcome. And just go to HeroPress.com if you want to read some interesting stories and be inspired by other people's journeys in your own country or beyond your borders, because there's a lot of good stuff in there. How many? 200 and what did you say? 276?
278.
278. I was off by two. Maybe I wasn't counting my own and some, I don't know, somebody else's, but 278. That would take a while to read them all, but I challenge you to do it. Give it a chance. Over the
I've
course
read
of
them all.
well, you have, of course, but the rest of us, take a look. And if you do decide to contribute your story based on today's streaming, let me know, because if I inspired you to write your story, I want to know about it, and I promise to read it. So
I have one more little story.
yeah.
It's about diversity.
Okay.
I always wanted to be as diverse as possible across as many different axes as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And so, low hanging fruit was gender. Um, and for a long time, I was very careful. I watched and I counted how many men do I have? How many women do I have? Okay, I need to go find a woman. I need to go find a man. So I want to keep it in balance. And then I quit. I quit paying attention altogether. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
look. And for 4 or 5 years, I didn't look at all. And then just a few months ago, I looked and we were exactly 50-50.
And you told me
And
about that when it happened. You messaged
yeah,
me because that was really cool.
and the lesson I learned was that it is a learned skill. Like
Mm-hmm.
it sounds hard at first. You're like, oh, I got to do this work
Yeah.
to make sure we're diverse somehow.
Yeah.
But it is learned, and once you're good at it, you don't have to think about it, and it isn't work.
Right. It
And
turns out that when women see other women and when people of color see other people of color, they learn that it's a safe space, and then they also know that it's okay to contribute.
yeah, and that
And
was a big
creating a
deal.
safe space is pretty cool. So I appreciate that you do that. Thank you.
Yeah, I feel blessed. I mean, I'll say it over and over again. I feel blessed by how many uh underrepresented communities.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just say it out. Abused communities
Mm-hmm.
have accepted me, given me member status, as it were, guest
Mm-hmm.
status,
Yeah. Ally
because
status.
I treat them properly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a member of Black
Mm-hmm.
Press, and I am the whitest boy you know. um, yeah, it's interesting. You treat people right, and
Mm-hmm.
they treat you back right. It's nice.
It's pretty cool, isn't it?
It is.
Awesome. Well, I don't know who's going to be my guest next week. I'm still working on that, but I hope whoever is around will tune in to watch it because I'm sure I'll get somebody good. I always have good guests. I always have. I know a lot of people. It turns
May
out,
I suggest getting some ahead?
Yeah, I usually do, but I've had a death in the family, and I've been a little bit away from my desk the last couple of weeks.
I'm sorry.
So forgive me for not being that far ahead on things, but I will catch up again and get some more people on the schedule. But we will be back next week, and it's a surprise to me as well who will be with me next week. But thanks for listening, everybody. Topher, thank you so much for being an awesome guest. Topher, stick around. I got a couple things I want to chat with you about after we're off the air.
All right.
And we'll see everybody else next week. Thank you. Bye.
See ya.